of you have a fundraising program? Yeah. Okay. Wow. Okay. Okay. And how many of you love fundraising? Okay. All right. How many of you are uncertain about the whole thing? Yeah. Okay. So I just want to tell you a little bit about myself before we start, so you kind of have a sense of where I'm coming from. I've been a United Church minister of the United Church of Canada for 25 years. I was ordained in my 20s, and uh, during that entire time, I've been a freelance religion writer for various publications. And about 15 years ago, I realized that I had this dream in my heart to be able to change the world for the better. Only that required money, and I had no idea how to raise it. And so I was working at a homeless shelter in downtown Ottawa as their communications director. And they were starting up a foundation. And the executive director said to me, Trish, every time you go out and talk, there's an influx of donations. So we would like you to come and work for the foundation. And I said, no. And I thought about quitting on the spot because I didn't see myself as a fundraiser or any good at it. But anyway, he said, just come along and see what you think. And so I decided I would try it. And I fell in love with fundraising. I caught the fundraising bug. And a few years ago, finally, after a number of years, got my CFRE designation, Certified Fundraising Executive designation. Worked for a few places, consulted, and then started at Broadview. Although I've been working with Jocelyn Bell, the editor publisher, for decades, I started as the development director there and then became the executive director. So that's sort of my circuitous way that I got into fundraising professionally. I realized that good ideas alone don't change the world, right? Vision without the resources to execute them are stuck. They never happen. And if we want thoughtful journalism or storytelling, meaningful public dialogue, and stories rooted in justice and compassion and faith to survive, well, then somebody has to invite other people to invest in them. And that's why, hallelujah, fundraising matters. And yet many people, especially in journalism, nonprofits, church world, are deeply uncomfortable with this. And I get that because that's where I started, feeling deeply uncomfortable. I remember telling my aunt shortly after I got the fundraising gig at the mission, the shelter, I said, you know what? I think God is calling me to be a fundraiser. And she looked at me like I was out of my mind. And she goes, "Ooh, are you kidding me?" I would hate to do that, she said. And I've encountered many people who've had that same reaction to being a minister turned writer turned fundraiser. But over time, I've come to understand that money itself, it isn't evil. It's money, and it's a tool, right? It can sustain journalism. It can strengthen democracy. It can support vulnerable people, and it can create space for dialogue and justice and hope. At its best, fundraising is not about extracting money from people. It is about inviting people into doing something that is meaningful, living in a meaningful way with all of the resources that they have. So at Broadview, we have unlocked extraordinary generosity. And I'll show you some of the, our history, our chart here. You'll see our revenue in 2021. I came on board Broadview, I think it was 2022. You'll see at 2021, we were at about $400,000 a year. And you can see the orange bar, that's the planned gifts that year. So almost half of that was planned giving. And you'll see the increase in the last few years, so that last year we raised over $1 million. And that is surely because we have really worked hard at articulating our vision, our purpose as an organization, and then putting the right tools in front of people to engage them. So today I wanted to share some of the most important lessons that I think I've learned along the way with Broadview, and talk about the art of the ask. We ask in lots of different ways at Broadview, and it'll be a quick romp over things. So by no means extensive, but I'll mention a few things that I think are really important when we start to talk about fundraising. So reframing fundraising. For me, I needed to reframe how I was thinking about raising money in order to do it well. It is difficult to ask for money if you secretly believe fundraising is manipulative, that it's selfish, or that it's somehow shameful or dirty, right? If we want to raise funds effectively, then we must genuinely believe that our fundraising matters. And it does. Right now, media organizations, as we've heard all day, are in a moment of enormous disruption, shrinking newsrooms and disappearing religion reporting, misinformation, polarization. We've heard pressures of AI, et cetera, et cetera. And the work that we do matters. People are hungry for trustworthy journalism, thoughtful storytelling, and really good conversations. So if we do not believe that what we do is worthy of support, our donors, our would-be supporters, will sense that hesitation immediately. So confidence really matters. And fundraising is a spiritual practice. That's the second point I want to make. The word philanthropy, it comes from two Greek words, philia, which means love, and anthropos, humankind. Philanthropy is the love of humankind. So at its core, fundraising is about loving humankind, right? It's about connecting people's values with meaningful action. So for me, fundraising is a ministry. That's how I think of it. It's my ministry. Both fundraising and ministry ask the same question. What kind of world are we going to create together? What do we want to create together? People want their lives to matter. Giving enables people to participate in something that is larger than themselves. So generosity is a spiritual call. When we are asking, we are inviting people to engage in a spiritual practice. Good fundraising is friend raising. It's all about relationships. At its heart, fundraising is not transactional. It's relational. People give because they trust you, because they believe in what you do, because they want to belong, they want to participate in that, and they want to make a difference. And in some ways, I think of fundraising or fundraisers as matchmakers. We connect people's passions with meaningful opportunities to make an impact, to have an impact. So connecting passions with ability to make an impact in our organizational needs. So for example, we have Broadview live events, online virtual events where various writers, journalists, and those who are readers and supporters gather online. And there's one person who really, really values Broadview live events because she really thinks that moving those stories forward into dialogue is how change happens. And so I visited her in her home. She'd been making, small gifts, a couple $100 annually. And once I, as a fundraiser, understood what really mattered to her, I approached her with a proposal to help fund those Broadview live events. So she funds now the software for those events and the facilitation costs, and her gift to Broadview went from, as I say, a couple $100 to $7,000 a year, specifically for that program. Another donor I talked to values the arts, and she values the United Church of Canada. Well, when we were publishing our special anniversary issue, anniversary of the United Church of Canada, and we had to pay a little bit more than we expected for the cover art and the art within the magazine, I asked her if she would prayerfully consider making a gift to sponsor the art and the design. And she made an $11,000 gift for that project. Those are a couple of examples of how, when we listen to our potential supporters, we listen for their passion, we can connect what they are interested in, what they're passionate about, how they see themselves making change in the world with what our needs are. Know your why. You know, people don't give to organizations just because they exist. They give because they believe in a vision that that organization, that charity, or that nonprofit is trying to execute or achieve. So what are you trying to achieve through your journalism, through your storytelling? Why does your work matter right now? What would be lost if your organization, your publication did not exist? You think donors already know this. They don't. You need to connect the dots. We need to connect the dots. So if we can't clearly articulate and very simply articulate what our purpose is, donors will struggle to know whether or not they should invest. All right, so we know how to think about fundraising, and we know how to think about at different gift offers and relationships. Now I move to the art of the ask, and here are just a few points I would raise about that. First of all, make your case. Maybe it's not a glossy folder, but at least put it down on paper. Make your case for support. Your case for support is the clearest argument for why someone should invest in your work. It answers 4 essential questions. Why does this work matter? Why does it matter now? Why is your organization uniquely positioned to do it? Why should the donor be a part of it? So for media organizations, especially, we must go deeper than we publish journalism, right? We must connect the dots, like I said. Why does independent, or why does your journalism matter? What would happen if this kind of thoughtful media disappeared? Why do these stories about faith and justice and ethics matter in public life? And most importantly, your case is not about organizational survival. Right? Donors are not inspired by, we need money to pay our bills, although we know that, right? They're inspired by things like, together we can protect thoughtful journalism, or together we can create more meaningful public dialogue. So you get to your bigger impact. It's not about so much what the product is. They already know that. It's what does it do? What is its purpose? What is the goal? A strong case for support also provides consistency. It shapes donation appeals, grant applications, major donor conversations, social media, website copy, etc. It's the building block, and we need to repeat it often. So we're working up a case for support for developing a future fund for our organization. And one of the things that you do in the case for support is explain the problem that your organization is trying to solve. And so this is just a little bit of the copy to give you a sense of what it sounds like, what we're saying at Broadview. So we're saying across Canada, journalism is rapidly changing. Newsrooms are shrinking, specialized reporting is disappearing, and stories that explore faith and ethics and meaning are quietly being lost. Yet the need for these stories has never been greater. At a time of polarization, uncertainty, social change, Canadians are asking deep questions like, what do we believe? How do we live well together? What does justice require of us? These are not fringe questions. They are central to our shared future, and they deserve thoughtful and trusted journalism. So you can hear in that, we go on from that to talk about how the donor can participate in that, but you can hear in that an articulation of the issue that we're facing, and then going on to how we can, at Broadview, be part of that solution. And another example, this is a bit of text from an appeal that we sent out. I'll talk later about the appeals, but they are usually both print and digital. And this appeal was sent in a moment of crisis. So we said to them clearly that we wanted to be honest with them. That again, media organizations are in crisis. Faith-based media has nearly vanished in Canada, and Broadview's thoughtful, justice-centered Canadian journalism is just hanging on. We don't have big ad deals. We're not owned by a corporation. Denominational funding covers less than 2% of our costs. And we rely on subscribers and donors like you to stay afloat. We try hard to keep subscriptions affordable. Your subscription doesn't cover the cost of running a media organization, including creating and delivering your magazine. In fact, with rising prices, it covers only a fifth of our costs. Every issue we publish is a testament to the power of reader-supported media. And we don't take your support lightly. We promise to cover the biggest issues of our time with clarity and compassion, highlight those who are working on solutions to the problems that we face today, reflect the diverse spiritual lives of Canadians with honesty and depth, elevate voices that are too often left out, contract Canadian artists, writers, and designers to produce our award-winning content, achieve our commitments to equity, diversity, inclusion, and keep our goal of creating a better, more just world front and center in all that we do. And that's what you fund when you give to Broadview. And that is what we and fellow Canadians risk losing without you. You may not realize it, but your gift today could be the reason someone feels less alone in their spiritual journey. The reason a conversation about racism, housing, or inclusion makes it to a pulpit, a classroom, or a family dinner table. The reason we can keep publishing bold and brave journalism. Broadview exists because people like you believe in a more just, spiritual, and compassionate Canada. Now is the time. Your gift will be matched dollar for dollar, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But you can see the case for support there, articulating the problem and the vision and the ask, what it means in the appeal copy. And then alongside that, we're often very fond of testimonials. And so this is a lovely testimonial from the director of Soul Space Ottawa. It's a sanctuary of support for those who are dealing with homelessness and trauma and addiction. And this is the director talking about why she reads Broadview, right? I turn to Broadview when I need to feel hope. I think media organizations can overly focus on what's not working in the world. And when positive stories are told, they're often fluffy, and Broadview isn't like that. There's a meatiness to it. She goes on to talk about Broadview. So again, there's the appeal, the ask, and then there's somebody who gets what we're about, articulating that very simply, compellingly. So aside from baking our case for support into appeals and marketing, it also helps when we're talking one-on-one with donor prospects. So I was on the phone with a couple. They had me on speaker because they didn't know how to use Zoom. So that's all right. We talked on speaker. And they were talking about, Trish, why do you work for Broadview? And I told them how I felt about it, that I was concerned that Canada would lose our voice and what that would mean in our country. We hung up, and the next day they called me and they said, Trish, we'd like to write you a $25,000 check for Broadview, which is awesome, right? But I think that's what happens when you're able to articulate your case for support. And whether you're doing that in print or in email blast, or you're having a conversation with a donor, that translates into dollars. So if you can't or haven't articulated your case, made your argument for what you do it, and then shorten it and make it your elevator speech, right? Because I think it will show, it will turn the wonderful words into revenue for you. This is just the top part of our direct mail, where you see the nice story there and my ask, and then a testimony. So just so you can see that. All right. Be factual, but inspiring. Media organizations often excel at facts, but struggle to communicate inspiration, right? Donors need both. People rarely give because of statistics alone. They give because they can see the impact behind the numbers. So testimonies are a great way to show human impact. I just shared with you Danielle's testimony. You collect those. Those are bold. If you have an online donation page, make sure that people can comment. Encourage them to comment, because then you can follow up and ask them if you can share their thoughts. This last week, Lloyd Axworthy donated to the project that Jocelyn was talking about. And of course, when we saw that donation come through, we immediately knew his name. He was in Canada, he's well known. He served as the Minister of Foreign Affairs in the cabinet chaired by Prime Minister Jean Chrétien. So when they sent us the donation, he said, it's good to see two organizations I respect coming together. So the editor-publisher contacted him and said, can we hear a little bit more about why you respect the two organizations? And he told us, and then we have been able to shape that into a narrative that if you follow us next week, you're going to see everywhere, along with an invitation to donate. Why? Because social proof, knowing that others have donated, can drive more supporters, because it signals trust and credibility and relevance. So go through your donor list, see who you have, see if there are people who are known or trusted by others, or if they feel compelled to share why they would give to you, why they support you, and ask them for permission to do that, and share that support, those testimonies broadly. Make the donor the hero. It's not about you or your organization, really. Too many fundraising appeals concentrate too much on what the organization does. But so the donor needs to be central to your story. So whatever your organization does, it's because somebody's helped you do that, right? Your subscribers, your donors have allowed you to do that. So it's not like, look what I did. It's look what you helped make possible through us. It's a shift in tone and direction. The most powerful word in fundraising copy. Anybody know what the most powerful word in fundraising copy is? John?
Thank you.
Yeah, it's you. Actually, it's you. You is the most powerful word in fundraising copy. Not look what we did, look what you did, right? Use power words, other power words for fundraising. And there's lots of market research around this, lots of testing that's gone through various words. But words like together, because, help, protect, these are all power words in fundraising. But of course, the most powerful one is you. These often outperform institutional language in every marketplace there is. Fundraising language should sound human, not bureaucratic, right? Good copy doesn't sound like an article. I remember when I first started copywriting, I was doing direct mail for the shelter, and I was making a mess of it, honestly. I was writing like a journalist, like that's what I'd done for years and years and years. And it's a genre. Fundraising copywriting is a genre. It sounds like a conversation. It sounds like a conversation with your best friend. So imagine when you're writing your fundraising copy, just picture your best friend across the table. You're just talking to them, right? And that's the tone you're going for. And when you're sending out appeals, use their first name if you can. Dear Married, just like dear friend is like the last resort. Don't do it. They have a name, use their name, because you don't talk to your best friend and say dear friend, right? It ruins it. So you use their first name if you can, and ask specifically. Develop compelling donor offers, and urgency is a good thing. Most of the time, it's a good thing. So one of the biggest fundraising mistakes is being vague, right? A donor offer is not just please support us, although we really want you to do that. Right? A compelling offer clearly explains what needs to happen, what the donor can accomplish, and why it matters now. And specificity increases giving. The very best offers that you could make, you could take a picture of, right? And so at the very least, the person cannot take a picture of what you're offering in their mind. It will not be successful. So we are trying as we speak to get more specific in our offers. We tested this past Giving Tuesday a fact checking offer. And so the pitch was at Broadview, every main feature is carefully verified before publication. Fact checking is quiet, meticulous work. It's what protects our integrity and your trust. And independent media is under attack by those who benefit from spreading misinformation. And with your support, Broadview stands on the front lines of the fight for truth, exposing injustice, holding power to account, and reminding Canadians that honesty and compassion and courage still matters. It costs $30 an hour or $900 an issue to fact check the main stories that make Broadview unique. So on Giving Tuesday, you can help fund the facts. $30 funds 1 hour of truth, $90 funds 3 hours, $900 funds fact-checking main features in an issue, and on from there. But you get the drift. Trying to be more specific, setting up donor offers at varied levels, especially with something like Giving Tuesday, we see sort of lower end donors. I think we made, I want to say, $12,000 or $15,000 in a day just in small gifts, but a lot of new donors. And so we saw more new donors, newly acquired donors when we were much more specific and offered tangible gifts at different sizes. So urgency matters. Many organizations avoid sounding like there's an urgent need. They don't want to feel pushy, but your work matters and it's needed now. And so don't be afraid to say so. There is a fine line, though, because you don't want to cross over into our organization is going to die, right? Because nobody wants to fund a single shift. So you've got to find that right balance. A couple of years ago, we made lemonade out of a lemon that we were handed. The United Church of Canada cut our grants significantly, tens of thousands of dollars, as part of their grant cutting process. They cut a number of grants, but we were one of them. And we went out with a letter and told supporters that we set a specific goal to make up a difference. We enabled the donor to just give if they wanted to the United Church coverage, or to our United Church and the rest of our general interest coverage, or just the general interest coverage. Part of what that did for us was create a really nice segment of people that we knew were strongly United Church invested that we could appeal to for other things. But anyway, people immediately saw the need and they stacked up. And so again, being very specific about the why and the urgency was helpful. Use segmentation to personalize the ask. So not every donor should receive the same message or donor prospect, right? Common examples that we might see are like monthly donors, Lapse donors, people who are not, who did donate at one time and haven't recently, major donors. And these segments are all in different relationships with your organization. Or maybe you have subscribers who are not donors. That's another one we commonly appeal to. But segmentation allows you to tailor messaging and really deepen connection, increase the response, and improve your stewardship. The more relevant the communication, the stronger the results. So, dig into your file. If you're just starting, that's maybe a different path. But again, then you're starting with a segment of people who have never donated, right? So you're looking at in your file for different ways that you could be approaching different people in your network. So, for example, you're going to talk to your monthly donors. You use words like, your faithful support, that you're the backbone of our organization. We can count on you. That's the kind of language you may use. Or lapsed donors. We really missed you. We hope you're doing okay. It's been this long since the last time you gave, and we'd love it if you could give again now, because we really need it for XYZ reason. Major donors, maybe you're not going to send that segment an email at all. Maybe you're going to pick the phone and make a phone call, or you're going to see if you can have coffee, or you're going to send them a handwritten note. You might talk to them in a completely different format. So anyway, look into your file, see if you've got natural segments, even among your subscribers. Make sure that you have a way of tracking those responses. And depending on your configuration, you may set up different donation pages for them, or perhaps there is another way to track. All right, integrating print and digital. Many organizations think they need to choose between print and digital fundraising, but the strongest fundraising strategies use both. So multi-channel campaigns generate 3 to 5 times higher response rates than single channel approaches. So at Broadview, we typically send 6 to 9 e-blasts when we send direct mail appeals. We kind of adopt a sandwich approach. We send an email a couple of weeks before the mail is to land. We say that we're launching the appeal, why we're launching it. We send a second to say that they will receive the direct mail like this week. And if they want to be an early supporter, it may be matched by a very generous donor, or will be matched by a very generous donor. Then the direct mail arrives, and then we send 4 to 6 more as follow-up. We've done that because we know we've tested, in our files, that sometimes people typically give on the first couple of emails, then they slack off, and then you realize it's the end of the appeal, and so then they start donating again. And we obviously dedupe between sending those emails. So if somebody's donated already, we take them off the next send list, right? And they get a thank you. They don't receive any more asks, and if not, we carry on. We reinforce those emails with social media, in magazine ads. I usually talk about it in my column. Early on, I realized that the benefit of print publication is that we're doing direct mail every time we mailed a magazine, in a way, So I started doing a monthly column. I tested various things in the magazine, but I started doing a monthly column to talk about our purpose and our work, our successes, our awards, to share testimonies from donors, thank donors, invite donations. There's always some kind of response device, typically with the QR as well. So I would encourage you to think about, if you don't already have a place to talk about support to your supporters, or about the support, to think about doing that. You might be tempted to think that you should do, I've heard this before, that you should do your digital fundraising exclusively because it's cheaper. Don't do that. The average direct mail gift is usually 1.5 to 2 times as much as online. Plus your audience is a reader, like they're readers. So if you have a print publication, they probably really like print. So approach them in the way that they read. Ideally, in many ways, all the time. Okay. one of the successes that we had was inviting people to donate tribute donations. So to make a donation and then name a person that they wanted to pay tribute to, either living or dead. And we published their names in the special anniversary issue. We had, I thought maybe we might get 50 donations. I think we had like 150 or 200. We had to add pages to the magazine because of the donations that came in. It was so successful. It was a bit out of control. So we're doing it again for another special issue coming up, only we've tamed the beast, we think, this time. But that's another idea, a way of using your grant to enhance your donation, actually make people feel good about paying tribute.
So how much did you charge for somebody to do this?
We didn't have a set donation fee for that one. The average gift, I think, was about $40. This time, though, again, because we had so many for that, it kind of got out of control. We were suggesting $50 as a minimum. You know, I don't know what people will do. I know that when people called in to make the donation, you know, they would ask, well, what do you want me to give? And if the person like on our team answered the phone and said, well, last one gave $100, they're like, okay. Right? Because again, giving is so often habitual. Like, you know, sometimes people give their $100 because it's what they do every year. Here's $100. They don't think about it. So you almost sometimes have to disrupt that thinking, right? In order to upgrade or increase the donation. So I found often what you ask for is what you get. What you ask for is what you get. So we'll test that this time. I'll let you know next conference whether it works. Okay. I think I'm at 11 now. Hang in. I'm almost done. Okay. Know your data. That's a big one, right? Fundraising is both an art and it's a science, and that's why we all love it. It's fascinating. You can track data like, you know, donor retention. That's how you retain them. You keep on your donors, right? Your average gift size. What is the average amount that somebody gives you? Recurring donor growth, like, you know, is your monthly giving program, for example, is it growing? Donor acquisition. What's your rate of acquisition? You know, you're getting new donors coming in the door. How many are dying off or leaving you? Your upgrade patterns, I mean, you could go on and on, your return on investment, etc. At any rate, what I'm saying is that data helps you make smarter decisions. It allows you to steward your resources well, and they help ensure that you can measure your performance. It helps you identify opportunities in your database too. So let me give an example here. So let's take average gift. This is how knowing the average gift data could play out for you. So you've seen gift arrays, right? Okay, so you see on the right-hand side, there's a gift array. So a couple of things about this. This is the tear-off form of the bottom of one of our direct mails. We're direct mail campaigns. We're working this up. I think it actually could be better than this, but this is the one I was telling you about with Danielle's lovely testimony down the side, and me talking about how their subscription doesn't cost. And anyway, so you'd see the gift array is the boxes down the side. It's starting at 120. So this one went out, this letter went out to a segment of donors that gave $100. Okay, so every year they're giving $100. That's the majority of our donors actually, stuck at $100. So we're trying to build the pipeline. So we send out a letter and the average gift size is 114, but a chunk of them are at 100. So what do we want to do? We set the first number at 120, right? And if we could actually improve this if we had circled the second number, right? Because when you looked at the fundraising marketing, most people on your gift array will give the second amount because they don't want to give cheap. They don't want to give too much. So number 2 is what you want to circle, is where you want to go to. But at least if you knew your average gift, you'd start the first number slightly higher. Does that make sense? Right. So you're gonna make more money. And this is the one where we said they could donate to different places. But you'll see the first thing we have emphasized here is monthly giving. Well, of course, we want them to give monthly first, right? This is the back side. So there, you know, you've got your method, your giving method. We're trying to collect phone numbers. and emails, and of course, legacy giving. Really important. So we want to know those people who want to learn more about giving a gift in their will, giving a gift of securities. And then if they're checking those boxes, and they did, we'd be following up with them because they're probably going to be larger donors, right? They might be giving $100 here, but when we talk to them, they're giving an estate gift. That average is about 18,000, right? So we want to make those calls. QR code, phone number, and there's always confusion, like when people donate for us, if they're paying for their subscription, which in our charitable model, we need to keep separately and carefully separately. So I think we could still work this up more, but we've tested various things. That's where we're at this point. Okay, so we talked about recurring giving, prioritizing recurring giving. Recurring gifts provide stability, helps organizations weather uncertainty, plan more confidently for the future. Monthly giving programs also really deepen donor loyalty because they create ongoing partnerships rather than one-time transactions. And so when you're setting up your donation pages, if they're online or like they're in a gift array, really prioritize monthly giving. You can ask for monthly gifts right out of the gate. I used to think that you get donors in the door before you ask them to become monthly donors. Don't do that. I've learned that I was wrong. You can ask for monthly gifts right out of the gate. And often we have had a lot of success doing so. We ran a campaign that was specifically asking for monthly donors. We said in that campaign, we needed 100 monthly donors. That was our goal. 100 new monthly donors. I think we got 120 or something. So you can run specific campaigns to convert monthly donors. Maybe you look at somebody who's given a segment of donors who have given low end, but consistently, right? Or maybe a little bit higher level. And it's good if you can convert monthly donors because you don't have to spend money and effort repeatedly asking, right? You're thanking and reporting, and they continue to give. On average, a monthly donor will give 7 years. And so that's 7 years of consistent support for your organization. Recurring donors are often your most loyal supporters. They are your future major donors, and they are your most likely legacy donors. So that they're really an important part of your program. Okay. So I've often heard we need to get new donors. We need to find new donors. And you do if you don't have a fundraising program. So for those of you just starting out, yes, you need to find new donors. But for those who already have even if a small fundraising program, we don't default to casting about for new donors until we've exhausted our current list, right? The best practice is to look at who you've got. And again, if you're looking at building a program, you're looking at your longtime subscribers for that, right? That's your segment. You're going to go and ask your longtime subscribers to become donors. Maybe you're saying you're going to launch this and you need, 300 founding donor members to launch, right? So you can launch your program in that way, setting a target goal, but you want to see if you can focus on donor retention first. The average nonprofit, first let me say that that acquiring new donors is much more expensive than keeping the ones you've got, right? So the average nonprofit loses more donors every year than it gains. Donor retention across the charitable sector, at least in Canada, hovers around 40 to 45%. And so that means that more than half of donors typically don't give again. And generally, it costs about 20 cents to retain a donor, and it costs about $1.50 to get a new one. So go to your list, focus on retaining who you've got. Loyal donors, again, they become your recurring donors, your major legacy donors, and your ambassadors. Identify major donor prospects. About 12% of donors are responsible for 88% of dollars raised. So major gift fundraising is the most efficient and effective way to raise money. It's efficient because you get a higher return on your investment of time. Typically, a developed major gift program has a 10-to-1 return on investment. Just a couple of months ago, we hired a major gift manager at Broadview. It's a bit of a leap of faith for us. She's here. Her name's Karen. She's wearing a scarf, so it's sitting around there. If you're thinking about major gifts, she's a lifetime major gift fundraiser, and she'd be able to give you some pointers. But we did that because we know that we need to get on our legacy giving program because of the age of our demographic, and also because we need to be able to build up an investment portfolio of millions in order to become what we need to become next. And so we brought somebody on board to do that. You know, major gifts rarely happen by accident. You look for people who are subscribers who have subscribed a long time, maybe donated consistently or engaged consistently, demonstrating the capacity to give. Get to know them. Like major donor fundraising is it's relationship based. Once you know them, you can find what kind of story they could sponsor or what aspect of coverage they are most drawn to. You can write a gift proposal that speaks to them. People often think that fundraising is about persuasive speaking, but in reality, really good fundraisers are just really good listeners, right? Ask questions like, what inspires you most about this work? What kind of impact matters to you? What concerns you about the future? I mean, we've sent out surveys, lots of digital surveys trying to hone in on our case for support. We've asked them, like, what do you think of all of these points in our case for support? What matters most to you? What you know? We got the surveys back and we rewrote it, right? Based on what they're saying that they're giving and why they're giving. And we're mirroring that back to them. And then don't be afraid to ask for a specific giving amount, right? You've kind of gotten a sense, once you've gotten a sense of their capacity to give, their affinity with your organization, you can ask them for that $50,000 gift and be specific about it. And then once you've asked, just say nothing. Let them think about it. And if they say no, and fundraising, it does mean that you encounter some no's. And that's okay, because that can mean no, not yet. No, that's not the right offer. Often you can turn no into some kind of yes down the road when you understand why. And as I mentioned before, some of the largest gifts organizations receive come through non-cash giving. So people make transformational gifts. They need some flexibility to do that. They could, for example, pledge a gift over time. So they say, you know, Trish, I'd love to make a significant donation. I'd love to make that $5,000 gift, but I can't do it right now. And I say, well, could you do it over 5 years? Oh, yeah, you could. I could. Well, would you like to pledge $1,000 a year? Because that would be wonderful. And again, that's offering them an opportunity given the way that they can and the way that they want to. So they could do that. Maybe they have no cash at the moment, but they would consider leaving a legacy or estate gift in their will. Or maybe they have securities. Securities is really growing. Gifts of security, stocks and bonds. Since 2018, gifts of securities have increased fivefold. So being able to give stocks or bonds is a great way for people who don't have cash on hand. All right, I'm at number 15. Okay. Stewardship really matters. This is so important. Many organizations spend a lot of time asking and very little time thanking. I would say that is a growing edge for Broadview. We are so concerned about getting healthy appeals that we need to pay more attention to thanking well. So there's lots of research on thanking, and there's, Charity Village, I think it said 41% of donors said that an exceptional thank you increased or influences them to give again, and also increased their next gift. So a good thank you is prompt. It happens as soon as they give. So if you're waiting for year end to say thank you, that is way too long. It should happen within 24 to 48 hours. So again, we have to systematize that at Broadview. If it's online, automatically people are thanked. And if not, and we receive the check in the mail and it's over, I think it's $200. Somebody, either a board member, staff member, our fundraising meeting, somebody calls them if we have a number to say thank you or sends them an email. So the sooner and quicker you can thank them, the more important they feel and the more valued they feel. So don't put that off. It's also sincere. It's specific. You're thanking them for what they donated toward. It is donor centered. And if you can show impact already, that would be great. Handwritten thank you notes are gold. They increased a second gift conversion by 45%. You are 7 times more likely to retain a donor if they give a second gift within 10 weeks of their first one. People say, don't ask again right so soon after they give. That's wrong. You just need to do a fair amount of stewardship up until then, because that second gift is what is probably going to make you more likely to have a sustainable donor in the end. So let me give you an example, a few examples of thanking, the ways we've thanked. So I think the best way we ever thanked was we have an internship program, and I was sending out an appeal for the internship program. At the end of the internship, I had the young interns write our donors a letter of thanks to them about their experience and what it meant to them in their life, right, with their picture. And it was just very moving. We had a whole second round of donations after that thank you went out because of that. And we didn't ask. Valentine's Day, like special occasions like Valentine's Day, it's a great day to honor the donors and those that give, supporters, volunteers to your organization. Sometimes if there's an article that we know, especially our major donors are interested in, we will, don't tell Jocelyn, the editor publisher of this, we cut it out. We deface the magazine and send it to them. Because we know that with a note that says, we thought you'd be interested in this, even if they've already subscribed, we give it to them anyway to say we were thinking of you. We give our donors sneak peeks of things, like we just published an ebook. The donors got sent the ebook first for free before everybody else. When we have event partnerships, we asked for free tickets to those events so we could give them out to our major donors. We've hosted meet and greets with the editor publisher, etc. So we never underestimate the power of gratitude. It's not just good manners, it's good fundraising. So as we think about fundraising and stewardship and generosity, I think about Jesus's words, where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. I think those words started the day this morning, right? Where your treasure is, there your heart will be. Our giving reflects what we value in our life. And what we hope for in the world, the kind of world that we want to see. So at its best, fundraising isn't about pressure tactics or transactions. It's about inviting people to place their heart in work that really matters. It is about helping people live their values through generosity and partnership and shared purpose. And in a time when trustworthy journalism and thoughtful public dialogue and meaningful storytelling matter more than ever, our work is not simply to raise money. It is to invite people into hope and impact and transformation. So I pray for every good thing for you as a follower of Christ, as you match people with their passion and interest with our collective call to generosity and your organization's vision and needs. So thanks, everybody. So I'll invite questions, or if anyone would like to share their best fundraising venture, I'd love to hear. Anybody? I walked through a lot of things.
Yeah, can you talk a little bit about your process for finding testimonials?
Okay, yeah. So we've done that a few ways. So one of the things, the easiest thing that we found is that on most of our donation pages, we invite feedback. You know how you can leave a space for people to write in? Lots of people do that. So when they write in and we think there might be an interesting angle there, then we can just contact them. I've also asked for people to contact me in the column, like share a testimonial. If you've got one, I'd love to hear. Here's my email. We've done that a lot. Letters to the editor. We've taken, some of the comments and feedback from that, especially if people feel like it's really important. Yeah, I think for us, it hasn't been so much finding the testimonies. It's having the time to track them down and develop the relationships but it's not unlike it's the same process as, journalism. You're interviewing somebody, you have to commit the time. Yeah, but there's lots of ways that we've been putting that out and inviting on social too, inviting people to comment. Yeah, Kevin.
Follow all of that, sometimes to your company drives are so big on follow the large dollar wouldn't say, oh, by the way, people in the
Yeah,
allow us to use your name different words.
Yeah. yeah,
And most of the time, the daughters will say,
yeah,
you know, that I think the idea of making sure we probably acknowledge them in a way that they want to acknowledge. Some people call us CNN friends. Some people love CNN friends.
yeah,
So kind of get a sense of that.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, and we've put like if somebody, so for example, one of the things that we started doing was enabling people to sponsor content, really sponsor stories. They don't have they're not able to read the stories ahead of a time, but we've been able to say, we're gonna be publishing a feature about Indigenous issues. It's gonna cost $2,000 for the writer and whatever and if people sponsor that, they want that, we do put their names under the story as a sponsor of that story. I guess again, you have to ask the donors for permission to share that they have donated. So we never publish a name or share a name unless the donor has given permission. There is a donor code of ethics, a bill of rights. If you go to AFP, that's the Association of Fundraising Professionals. There is a donor bill of rights that we all agree to honor. And one of the things on that is that we honor anonymity and privacy if that's what they prefer. So we don't publish names unless we have written permission. Yeah.
What's the timeline on asking donations to the sponsor stories? Is it like within the year or a month?
Yeah. Well, I look at we're working. The editorial team is looking at a year ahead, and maybe those stories materialize or not, but I have a meeting with the editor and publisher and the teams look at what's coming up. And then in the back of our minds, we're like, who have we talked to that we know is interested in this or that story? And so, we've had emerging kind of sponsorships of stories that come out of that. And I think we can work it out even more, actually. We had an interesting month last month when we asked for donations to an ebook we're publishing on Indigenous issues. We couldn't get anybody to sponsor the ebook. I think this is an ebook and people don't value it as much as print, but a couple of people said, well, we're not really seeing the value of this, but if you come back to us, you're going to write a story about Indigenous issues, we'll fund that. We're like, we're just like packaging a whole bunch of these stories, but if they're in the magazine, they would. So that's a no, but it's not a no. It's a not now, not this. But again, we have a list then. Next time we see that coming up on the editorial board, we know who to call and we will get that gift. Right? It's just it's sometimes it's trying to figure out what the right offer is at the right time. Yeah. You have to have thick skin, right? Yeah. Anybody else?
Did you do any testing around asking for a one-time gift versus asking for one-time gift and a monthly gift at the same time? And I'm curious if you test that.
Yeah. Sort of. I mean, we always ask for monthly and one time. We always prioritize the monthly and hope that they give monthly. And they tend to click off that. Or if it's online, like an online donation page, they have to put it. I've been surprised, actually, like I said, I've been surprised at how many are willing to give monthly as a first gift. I wouldn't have thought that like 2 years ago. I don't know, like one of the consultants I was talking with said, well, it's Trish because everybody's getting used to subscription everything. So they're used to having recurring, charges on their account. So, I don't know. It wouldn't have been the theory 10 years ago, but it's changed. But specifically, I'm trying to think of tests where we've done, I just think we pretty much do that all the time, hope for the best. But where we have had success is in having a specific monthly giving campaign with a specific goal of like 100 monthly donors. And then that's what we get. It's like what you ask for is what you get. Yeah. Yeah. What else?
Okay. Oh, what would be your best advice if someone went to need fundraising?
My best advice for someone who is needed fundraising, just do it. It's like a Nike. Just do it. And I think first though, like foundationally, it's get clear about your purpose. Right? Get clear about why you want somebody to donate, why it matters. Because I think aside from that making its way into good offers, it's encouraging for you when you go out because it is hard to ask for money if you're not, you yourself in your heart do not see why we're asking. Right? You're not asking for you. So you're not asking for a hand up for yourself. You're asking for this purpose and it's a noble. And that allows you to do that and to be courageous. Right. So I would say get in tune with your purpose. And then once you've got, if you're talking about building a new program, once you've got that, look at who you've got in your sphere already. Okay, so you've got board members, ask your board members to identify people that also might be in tune with your purpose. Right? To send your first ask to their friends. Ask if they'll introduce you and you can talk to them. Right? So you identify a network. Right? And you've already probably got people in your sphere, your friends, your board members, your community, and you never could grow from there, from who you've got. And just don't be afraid to try. And be sincere about it. I mean, you speak from your heart about why what you do matters.